Friday Heaters. Where are we? We're here with Ben Lee from the Nicodim Gallery. Ben Lee, what are we doing?
We're here at Robert Therrien's studio in downtown Los Angeles. This is the first time it's been open to the public and the first time another artist's work has been shown in conversation with Bob's at his studio that he built himself in 1989. Why don't you come on in and have a look? On paper, Robert Therrien and Isabelle Albuquerque don't have a lot in common, but there is a lot of serendipity within their practices.
Now we're like in studio. We're in his studio. Would this be normally where he would be historically practicing and making things?
So this was his workshop, and his tools and materials were in the separate room over there that we'll see in a second. But these tables, this was a table he built himself. This is obviously Isabelle on top.
Yeah.
What I like about their work and dialogue with each other is Bob's work is very aloof and kind of reserved, and you get the feeling he was a little bit afraid of his body, whereas Isabelle's work is very much of the body and very, very present, very fearless in that regard.
Yeah.
But I think when you put them in conversation with each other, Isabelle's work brings out this latent fetishism and kinkiness that is there in Bob's work, but you don't see until there's a prone figure sitting on top of it.
Yeah. Pairing these two artists together, presenting them in conversation, it's a whole nother aspect of the art world.
Bringing the two together, you do see the shared value of materials, the love of materials, the not worship, but fetishism of materials. Every one of Isabelle's series, Orgy for 10 People in One Body, is her own body in very specific art historical poses, but reduced to simple elements. That one's rubber. This one is human hair and coyote claws. Bob had the same thing, but kind of in reverse. This is a giant beard based on a Santa beard or Brancusi's beard, which was another one of his recurring motifs.
Whoa.
This is made of stainless steel. You can see in his workshop there's one made of mud, there's one made of rubber. So there's a lot of similarity when it comes to the use of materials, the preciosity of them all. This is part of Isabelle's series, Orgy for 10 People in One Body. Isabelle often recasts her figure in the role of different common themes throughout art history. This one is Andrew Wyeth, which is this woman that was a paraplegic that insisted on crawling by her own means all through town. Isabelle recasts it as a kind of feral thing with these coyote claws as the fingernails, bringing to it this feral energy.
Oh, and here it's like it's so funny because I first was like, oh, the figure, but then I'm like, oh yeah, here's like the corner of a table of massive proportions.
Bob's practice wasn't so much as surreal as it was nostalgic. Like, granted, these do make you feel like you've gone through the looking glass and where up is down and down is up and you don't know where you are. But when you look under a table like this, it makes you think of the times when you were looking up at a table when you were younger. And then there's often very specific memories attached to that, and I think that's what Bob was the most interested in.
And then with Isabelle here, this looks more like wax.
This is a wax figure, human hair, shibari rope, and her ever-present wedding ring. She and her partner continue to be long collaborators on a lot of their artistic ventures, but the sculpture practice is the first thing Isabelle has done completely by her lonesome. The wedding ring is a little reminder of that bond.
These are scans of her body that then go into a mold, or?
They've evolved throughout the Orgy series. I love saying that. We're all evolving through orgies when it comes down to it. The first one was made from a full body cast, and you can actually see pictures in her book called Orgy for 10 People in One Body. You can buy it at all your local bookstores. But then it evolved to a 3D body scan, and it's gotten more and more technologically advanced up till the 10th one, which this is the 10th piece in the Orgy series.
Okay.
And then now that the Orgy is finished, the Orgy is never finished.
Right.
But
never finished.
The Orgy for 10 People in One Body series has completed, and she's working on a new body of work called Alien Spring, which is the first one is more tied to the body, then the next one is, I guess, touch and grass, bringing things back to nature. And so you'll see some flowers upstairs that are inspired by Georgia O'Keeffe, Louise Bourgeois.
Are these smaller limbs and pieces, are these kind of like experiments or?
This is one of a few reliquaries. They're actually vessels. This one's called Reliquary for a Fallen Beast. I think it was initially imagined as a place where you could bury your pet. Perfect addition to your mausoleum for your dead pets.
Just the positioning or shape of it, like there's kind of a sensuality even to this weird non-human foot thing, or the single arm with the hair.
I think that's a really cool thing about Isabelle's work and Bob's in conjunction. You don't realize the sensuality of a table leg until you see a bound figure sitting underneath it. You don't realize the sensuality of a flagpole until you see Isabelle's naked laying body. And so the works together bring out a lot of poetry in the others. Can I introduce you to Mihai?
Hi, I'm Ben. Okay. Is this exciting?
No, I'm so impressed by this thing. It's emotional.
And Mihai's a hard Romanian man.
And I'm a hard man. I don't really react. I don't like to react, but I can't hold myself.
We've all experienced this in our cabinets at home.
Is this actually cast iron? Would that be like a giant cast iron?
Yes, I'm going to say. Bob liked the idea of them crammed in the closet as if you have it at home. So these were the impetus for a lot of his stacked plates, stacked pots and pans. There are pictures of Bob holding big stacks of pots and pans. These are things he collected. But when the salespeople would go from door to door selling these, they would have miniature objects of it. And so then the miniature became large became miniature, and it kind of makes you reevaluate your relationship and your perspective on these.
Is this wood? This is all?
It's so it's cast bronze with a green patina and wood. It's called Fallen Limb. Put it on like a glove. I like to imagine it being kind of a glove. Here, I just love the golden calf underneath it.
And with the light right now, it's really hard. You kind of want to just... They're beautiful.
These are sonically perfect. If you touch them or if you clomp them, they have the same acoustic quality of which the animals after which they were modeled.
How do they do that? Is that just because of the material, or?
So it's the gaboon wood from which the black keys of pianos are made. And then she just clomped it. She clomped it, and she listened to field recordings. I would call Isabelle for weeks, and there was this clomping in the background. It was because she was sanding these hooves so they would have the exact same acoustic quality.
Wow.
Another Christmas reference, the cloud, which is a predominant motif in Bob's work, started out as a snowman, which Bob said was the first sculpture he ever made. And then if you turn the snowman over, it becomes a rain cloud.
I've never had that thought. A sideways snowman being a rain cloud.
We're all sideways snowmen if you think about it.
I guess, yes, when we're lying down.
I love this random closet in the middle of the staircase. That's Soapy, which was apparently an actual spokesperson for soap back in the day. You'll see as we go through this face, it haunts my dream.
So like, is this a found object, or is this Bob's sculpture?
Bob's sculpture of
it's a small
logo that was on just like a bars of soap. Bob had a lot of soap in his house.
That in fact is also extra large. It should be a small bar of soap, but instead it's a...
This is another Isabelle reliquary. The butt of it is made from a wasp's nest. So another place for your mausoleum where you can put your dead pets.
And this is her as well here.
Yes, this is a new assemblage piece of Isabelle's.
It feels like yet again another signature of hers.
One of Bob's little secrets, showing I think the irreverence of his practice, which seems very monastic. And someone described it as Catholic core who came in the other day. But the steeple is actually a trace of his own middle finger. So
really,
it became. And then I'm told, I don't know if this is true or not, but I'm a Jew. But the steeple looks like a Protestant steeple, whereas Bob was Catholic. And so I guess it's another middle finger to certain institutions. But I just love the witch with the steeple, which is not dissimilar from the witch hat over there. Yeah. And this was the last piece that Bob made, that Isabelle's witch is flying into the clouds over here.
There's definitive choices of placing everything, but it almost seems it seems, maybe it's just because it's fun, but that it wouldn't be too hard to figure out interesting ways to place them.
Again, when you put Isabelle on paper next to Bob Therrien, you think it's like this, but then when you see it, it comes more like this.
Yeah, totally, for sure.
The oil can became a trope in Bob's work because if you spin the steeple around from the top really fast, it starts to look like an oil can.
I did not realize that. Most of Isabelle's work deals with her own body.
Bob's work is very much not about his own body, but about his own nostalgia contained within certain objects. Whereas Isabelle's work is very centered on her own body, but then it's made headless so that you can pour your own feelings and your own nostalgia within it. And so both of them, I think, get to the same place through different means, one organic and then one kind of, what do you call it? I'm trying to do your...
Oh, yeah.
Isabelle starts from the body and then expands out into the universe. Bob's starts from these non-human structures, but then brings it into a very nostalgic, ethereal space.
Yeah. Are these all paint? Like, what are these?
He liked to play with material. He was a material fetishist. This is from a mirror that he scraped off the back. He painted on the rain cloud that was formerly a snowman, but left on different layers of the enamel.
So you get that really cool patina. And then this is a deer.
This is part of the Orgy series.
Okay.
She considers the back the front.
Every time we see different shows, and I always think about, okay, how would a child interact with a lot of this stuff? And it's always, so much of it is like touch and feel, and I would just assume it'd be so hard to not, be a little kid and want to like...
But it's interesting too, because I think both Bob and Isabelle bring out a lot in kids. Like, it's a deer, but it's also a person. And like, what does that make you think of? And
the fantasy.
The audience that both of them were going for was to bring us to a place of childlike wonder. Like, Bob's, you're literally under the table looking up.
Yeah.
And it brings you back to that space.
Yeah.
With Isabelle, like, why can't I be a witch? Why can't I be a deer? And another thing that I don't think we considered really before this exhibition, but Isabelle plays a lot with scale and perspective as well. When you photograph this guy from down here, it looks like a regular sized figure, but really it's a very small figure. Another
play on scale. And then this witch hat, it's so funny, I'm like, wait, who's who?
Yeah.
Which is good, maybe a good sign that you've done
Bob's, but it's another perspective play. If you look at it from the right angle, you can't see the bend, and that was the reason why Isabelle and Dean chose to put it right there. So when you look at it coming in, it looks straight, and then as you turn around, it becomes more crooked.
All of the body pieces, were those all constructed around the same time for that same?
It was over a 2-year period, and the first show was Sextet at Nicodim in 2020, and then that was the first 6 in the series, and then the full Orgy was first shown in Jeffrey Deitch in New York in a year and a half later.
Okay.
And this was the first in the series, and this one is made from cast of her own body, and you can see the process in the book. In the book! The original piece, this is based on the myth of Leda and the Swan, where Zeus comes down to seduce or rape the beautiful Leda. In Isabelle's telling, she recast Zeus as a saxophone that was initially placed in between her legs, so it's reversing the power structure within that myth. Yeah. But here, when they came, she just thought that Bob's raindrop were a perfect stand-in for Zeus. So in this telling, we removed the saxophone entirely.
Okay. Almost did not see this.
Yeah, it's another reason why it's terrifying having kids and dogs running around here. Richard Jackson built this space, the sculptor, back in the day, and it was here for Bob's giant tables and chairs so that they would pass through, and it was also kind of a size test. Fun fact, all the folding tables and chairs that Bob made that were 10 times scale, or 10 times, I don't know, were fully functional. You could fold them, you could bring them out.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
But I love this perspective play. It's like we're looking down on the giant flagpole that we saw upstairs.
Yeah.
A helicopter or a super tall building. But you can see the way the giant one downstairs, like a flagpole,
Yeah.
isn't constructed like that. But then when you look at it from
Now it
this
makes
angle-
sense. Yeah, it took me a while because when we saw it before, I was like, it's kind of like a golf tee, but that's not a golf ball at the top. But it's like if there was a flag blowing in the wind, from this angle, it would look wider at the top.
This is a very early 90s piece of Robert Therrien's. It's a stainless steel frame with the painted blue mirror. The mirror itself is on paper.
Oh, yeah.
So a lot of his earlier work had that extreme texture, and it got shinier and more refined as he progressed in years.
Yeah. Was this already on the wall like this, or?
So he's they have a pretty sizable archive of his historic work. Bob kept a lot of pieces, like the plates that are behind you, most of which are institutionally collected. They moved everything around basically for this exhibition. The beer downstairs was brought back into the gallery.
I'd just be curious if we know, like, is there however many of these? Is it each one made individually? I guess they are.
There's been a number of different fabrication techniques that he
Yeah.
perfected over the years for both durability, archival purposes. But I think these are made from the same material that the actual plates are.
Sure looks like, I mean, it looks exactly like that same material.
But the purpose of this was like the movie Vertigo inspired this. If you walk around in a circle,
Okay.
you get that.
It gets
the
that.
spinning
It does
plates.
kind of. Oh yeah, the spinning plates.
Yeah, you get that feeling.
Oh yeah. We got to keep the. Yeah, here we go. This is the.
I'm gonna take a break.
I feel like people have got to be excited about this show. I mean,
It's been honestly, it's one of the most exciting
Yeah.
exhibitions I've been a part of.
and so this is the final one.
This is number 2 in the Orgy for 10 People in One Body series. The first sculpture was actually resin, but this is the third in the edition, second or third. So now it's plaster. And she specifically made these candles so that they go out before they touch the body.
Yeah. Just curious, how often do you replace the candle?
They last about 2 hours.
2 hours. Okay. And so are you having to kind of like clear this out every day after and start a new candle, or?
We like it as part of the sculpture.
Yeah.
Isabelle likes that build up.
Yeah, it's great.
Like Robert Therrien, Isabelle Albuquerque is very particular about the materials she uses. Everything is intentional and done with a great bit of research and particularity. And she saves all the half-burned candles, and those go along with the sculpture
Cool.
wherever it lines up.
And is this, I guess it's just naturally placed on the mattress.
A little bit of reinforcement within the twin bed just so that it doesn't sink down too much at the bottom.
Because that's probably pretty heavy still, right? I mean,
It's not light. You ready?
yeah, okay. So this was his home.
He built this himself, and again, this was built in 1989, not mid-century. It's just testament that Bob was his work. His practice wasn't coming from a performative space. This is who he was. This was how he lived. There's another rain cloud.
Sideways snowman.
There's a stovepipe sculpture next to the actual stovepipe. There's something really, I think, romantic about the way he was so poetic about the utilitarian objects that we interact with every day. They were art to him, and he imbued a lot of love and memory and nostalgia on top of it. But this was his childhood.
And this is, do we know, is this all still operating? And
Yeah, everything works. This is where he cooked. It's very clean. This is where he served me burritos when I would come here back in the day.
okay,
And wait till you see where he slept.
okay,
Mind you, he was 6'3", 220 pounds.
okay, solid.
This was his bed.
Awesome.
It was a very monastic existence.
Yeah. Wow. I'm 6'2", 210, and it's been a minute since I've slept on a twin. Had he had success? I mean, he could have gotten a better bed.
He had a home in Malibu, and he had but he was never there, and it was very. I think it's like 700 feet on square feet on like a big bluff. But he also briefly had a home in Silver Lake.
Okay.
But this is where he wanted to be all the time.
Yeah.
And it's not an easy commute from either of those
Yeah,
places
yeah.
over here. But look at the bathroom. The plumber told Gene, and when they had the plumber out, they're like, "That's a toilet's over 100 years old."
Whoa.
That's soap.
Look at all this soap.
Quite old as well.
I'm a bar soap guy, so I respect the bar soap. It's a lot of soap. It feels like a blast from the past, but then there's that giant TV screen there.
So that was when he was towards the end. He would get IV treatments, and then he would be bedridden for days at a time. And so they finally did a little upgrade over here.
Do you know what he was watching?
Friday Heaters. This is his record room, and on his giant folding tables and chairs that are on the cover of this book.
Yeah.
But some of the series would have different initials spray painted on the back, and I asked him what they were from, and he pulled out one of these records, and it was like a church record. Like, a lot of these are weird, like very rudimentarily recorded like church
gospel
albums.
church albums, yeah.
And he said, "Oh yeah, it would be from this church," and that was the initials of the church it said it was recorded at. So you can see the teardrop record right here. I think that plays a lot into the teardrops that are outside, but yeah,
Like cassettes and 8-tracks and records and DVDs and.
But yeah, nothing out there comes from a place that wasn't inherently important to him and his existence and his practice.
Okay. It seems pretty, like, I don't know if it's just because it's been now organized for this show, but he seems like he was a pretty, like, organized guy, and
He was very into
everything in
his
its place.
books and his archive and so on. He had a very specific way of doing things.
yeah. It's hard to not think of this as part of the art.
But that's why this place is so crazy. You don't have, it's a living sculpture. It feels like he's still here.
Yeah.
Isabelle was saying that this has profoundly shaped the way she thinks about her work. And she just got a new studio up in San Marino. But I think Bob thought about this place as a living sculpture. This is where he made his work, but this was also a piece of his work. And I think Isabelle, as someone who also sleeps with the figures, like she would sleep with the deer. She slept with the little wooden piece, and her bed is in the center of her studio with all the figures lying around her.
Oh, cool.
But I think, yeah, I think it's really profound the way that he lived his art, and I think it kind of, as someone who's very much involved in the art world, like we have a white box where we put on shows every 6 weeks that are very special and very meaningful. But it's nice to know that the work comes from a place like this.
Well said. Well said.
And I think he's not alone in this, but although he had the means and he was in the right time and place to construct this, but I think hopefully the people that we work with and that are living now will see this and be inspired by it, and build their own worlds.
Yeah, yeah.